Hello, my name is Brian Cameron. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Enterprise Architecture at Penn State University. And this year, the Center for Enterprise Architecture was invited to participate in the InfoWorld and Forrester Enterprise Architecture Awards program. I'd like to take a few moments and talk about some of the global trends that we're seeing in enterprise architecture and some of the reasons why we're experiencing so much interest in the research and educational programs of our center at Penn State. The profession of enterprise architecture is evolving rapidly around the globe, and as best practices become more mature and understood by organizations of all types and sizes, we're seeing a tremendous uptick in the interest in formally establishing enterprise architecture programs from organizations of all types and sizes. Some of the industry drivers that we feel have come together to generate a great amount of interest in this space. One is the global financial crisis. We started our center and programs in the midst of the global financial crisis at a time when many organizations were looking for mechanisms to generate more efficiencies, become more effective at what they do, and generate greater agility in their organizations. And many either revamped their interest or renewed their interest in enterprise architecture, or we saw many during that time, especially small and mid-sized organizations, start enterprise architecture practices for the first time. So the global financial crisis and the continued ripple effects we see in our economy and through government have given new interest, new prominence to enterprise architecture in organizations of all types and sizes. Another factor that we feel has led to the increased interest in enterprise architecture is the shifting mindset that we see in many organizations from IT as a traditional cost center or cost to be managed to that of a strategic resource, an area of investment, just as you would invest in any other part of your business. And as we see this shift, we're also seeing a shift in the traditional role of the CIO. As we outsource more functions into the cloud and outsource more to external providers, we see the role of the CIO shifting to more of that of strategic planning, architecting, and over time we see a convergence between the role of the chief architect and the CIO in many organizations, and we expect that this trend will just increase in the future. We also see more of an understanding of, from people outside of enterprise architecture about what the enterprise architecture discipline is and the role that that enterprise architecture can play in strategic planning. Enterprise architecture is often thought of as the missing bridge, if you will, missing in many organizations between strategy and execution. Michael Porter estimates that over 80% of organizations today do not successfully implement their strategic plans. And he goes on to say that the reason for this failure is not necessarily because the strategic planning's bad or the strategies are bad, but because of a failure to execute and tactically implement the plans. And we believe that this points to a need for enterprise architecture as a discipline throughout organizations, as that missing bridge, that linchpin between strategy and tactical execution. And I think we're starting to see more and more organizations understand this role and appreciate this potential role for enterprise architecture. And as we do, I think we see more of a thought process around an architectural approach to business planning of all types, not just within IT. We're starting to see enterprise architecture evolve from its roots in IT to be true enterprise architecture and applied to areas outside of IT and not just enterprise IT architecture. So as a result, we're seeing a huge uptick in demand for people with a very diverse and unique skill set. People with good understanding of business and strategy, as well as a good understanding of enterprise information technologies. And these Renaissance people are difficult to find. The traditional analogy that we use in enterprise architecture to explain what an enterprise architect is typically the analogy of a city planner versus a building architect. And we have many building architects in organizations, or systems architects, solution architects, but we don't have many city planners or people with a city planner perspective, people with the perspective that we embody in the enterprise architect. Yet we see organizations of all types projecting a huge uptick in the need for people with this broad skill set and with this strategic nature in their perspective and training. But we find in organization after organization, a real mismatch between the supply and the demand in the marketplace. So as a result, many of our activities here at Penn State are of interest, in our educational programs are of great interest to organizations around the world. And we see, as we look at the winners of this year's EA Awards program, I think we see projects that embody the benefits that enterprise architecture can bring to an organization: the agility, the efficiency, the effectiveness, and the mechanism to align IT and other parts of the organization with the strategy of the organization, and as mechanisms to enable transformation in organizations. Enterprise architecture can be a very powerful mechanism for transformation, again, if it's structured and staffed correctly. So it's been a pleasure and an honor for the Center for Enterprise Architecture to be involved in the InfoWorld and Forrester EA Awards program, and we congratulate this year's winners.